So it's not live now. It's just recording. Oh, it's been ages since I've done this section. Hello, my good Irish Football Fan TV. We are delighted to be back. Our first video since Christmas 2022. And I'm back with a bang with Gary. And we're here to talk about the highs and lows of the Irish national team for 2022. And that includes the women and the under-21s as well as the men's national team. Gary, firstly, how was Christmas and how are you?
I'm all good, Paul. Yeah, it was quiet. I was down in Limerick. It was good to spend time with family. And it's all good.
Yeah, same as myself. I think the quieter the Christmas, the better, and just no drama. So I think that's the best way to do it, and then just kind of get it out of the way, and then look forward to the new year and everything that brings. So I suppose we'll get straight into it. We'll go through the men's fixtures, and then obviously when we go through the fixtures there, then we can come back and discuss some of our favourite parts, some of our worst parts of the year from that aspect, and then we'll move on to the women then after that, and then we'll speak briefly about the 21s as well and their kind of journey too. So we'll just go back to the start of the year. So in March we had friendlies and we drew 2-2 with Belgium with Chiedozie Ogbene and Alan Brown scoring for us in that game. Then we had obviously the late goal against Lithuania with Troy Parrott. And then moving on to June and the start of the Nations League, we lost our first game away to Armenia, and Edward Spertian scoring for Armenia, which we were warned about by the lads over at Football Kentron in our opposition preview. We were warned about him, and then we lost to a second string Ukraine team with Tsigankov scoring that free kick that went the whole way in and deceived Queevy and Kelleher. So we remember that one, which was a bit of a low point. Then we bounced back on the Saturday against Scotland, beating them 3-0. Alan Brown started the scoring from a corner, and then Troy Parrott, obviously with the lovely lovely cross by Obafemi, which he got on the end of and headed home, and then Obafemi with probably the best goal I've seen scored at the Aviva, but we can come back to that from your point of view. And then speaking of great goals as well, we went to play Ukraine in Poland. I believe you were at that game, and Nathan Collins scored there, and that was one of the best goals I've seen for a while. And then we beat Armenia then, I think that was in September, with Egan Obafemi, and then obviously the late Robbie Brady penalty with all the drama that brought from VAR benefiting us. And then we lost to Scotland after going a goal up with John Egan away to Scotland, and then ending the year with the friendlies. Then we lost 2-1 to Norway. Alan Brown getting the goal for us there. Nice daisy cutter, very reminiscent of Matt Holland's goal against Cameroon in the World Cup 2002 for those of you that remember or are old enough to remember. And then we have Malta, the Malta game, and we narrowly beat Malta 1-0. Callum Robinson with pretty much a goal gifted to him and the team. So, yeah, I suppose, Gary, just your immediate thoughts, just kind of listening back to that. Is there any memories refreshed there for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a funny year, really, Paul. Maybe a holding year in that there was no qualification for a major tournament at stake. It's a mixed bag, very much a mixed bag. Some lows. I mean, the disappointment, obviously, the one that really springs to mind is that defeat in Yerevan. That was really depressing, particularly when you see what the other countries did to Armenia in our Nations League group. But there were some really impressive performances there as well. In particular, bouncing back. I mean, having lost to Armenia and then lost to second string Ukraine, it was really looking like a bleak window. We bounced back with a bang and had a fantastic win over Scotland. And then that really impressive performance in Łódź, where we drew 1-1, and that great goal from Nathan Collins that you mentioned. So I was actually in good spirits going into September. That defeat in Scotland, particularly having been ahead at half time, was a real blow, I thought. We played really well in the first half and didn't follow through. Armenia, the home game even, I suppose we got there in the end, but thrown away a 2-goal lead. and November was a bit meh. I mean, I know they're only friendlies and it's hard to read too much into it, but losing the Norway game, and they did look a better side, and then I suppose just about getting the win over Malta. I don't know how much Stephen can learn from those games anyway. So, yeah, a bit of a mixed bag. I mean, next year obviously is absolutely crucial with qualification at stake for Germany. And unfortunately, the downside of finishing third in our Nations League group is that we got such a tough draw. We got a third seed, and then we were desperately unlucky in the draw. I mean, if you look at it, we've got the World Cup finalists and the team that basically brought Argentina to penalties. So it's going to be very, very, very tough to finish ahead of either the Dutch or the French.
Yeah, it does kind of look bleak from that aspect. But if you look back on, I suppose, just the year itself, there's been some high points in comparison to probably years gone by. Just like the Scotland game. I don't know if that's maybe a freak result or, we actually did play that well, or Scotland didn't turn up on the day, or was it a kind of false sense of reality, just the fact that we got the win against them, that everyone thought that we were going to go on then and, really start winning games and looking like we were going to be a force to reckon with, and Stephen Kenny had kind of turned it around, because I'm not sure what part of the year we lost Anthony Barry, because then obviously he became a talking point because we played Belgium and stuff like that. Then we ended up losing him. I don't know if you want to include that in a low point as well, because I thought he was quite good, and I thought we were seeing the benefits of him. And then we obviously lost him. Then we lost John Eustace, so we ended the year with no coach other than obviously Keith Andrews, and I think they need to get someone in soon enough. But I think the Scotland game for me will be the highest point. I just remember coming away that day just being so happy, like with the goals that were scored and the quality of the goals that were scored as well. And then because of I suppose the two defeats, obviously Armenia, and then you had the Ukraine one as well, and they fell after we had a decent end to 2021, leading into 2022. And people started feeling like, okay, we ended the year with good results. Maybe we're starting to see the corner being turned here. And then, boom, blew up in our face a little bit. I think we got a little bit too ahead of ourselves after the games against Belgium and Lithuania. And I think it came back to haunt us then when we went and played away to Armenia. And we obviously know that we struggle against teams who play and sit. Because we just can't, we're not that good at breaking teams down. So I suppose that week it goes from literally the worst to the best in that week.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, we finished 2021 on a high, and I think March was reasonably successful. I mean, a 2-2 draw against Belgium was an impressive performance. It was a very entertaining game for a friendly, and obviously a decent result. Lithuania, I mean, how many goals had we chalked off for offside? I was losing count. I think it was about 3 or 4. And I think the fact that we got the last minute or whatever, 97th minute win or whatever it was, certainly meant we kind of finished March on a high. And it was great for Troy as well to get that goal. But yeah, so then it was such a downer because it wasn't just the defeat by Armenia, it was the performance and everything. It was really just one of those bad days. And then we followed it up with another disappointing performance. But as you said, the Scotland game was definitely the highlight of the year from the men's perspective. It was our best performance. We blew them away. I wouldn't want to get too carried away with it because, I mean, Scotland are a decent enough side, but I mean, it's not as if we beat one of the major European powers. I mean, certainly they're nowhere near the standard of the French or the Dutch who we're going to face in the qualifying for the Euros. And but we followed that up with a decent draw against Ukraine as well. That was a very good performance. Okay, we led at half-time, and even when they came out in the second half and equalised straight away, we still played very well. it was a game we could have won, we could have lost, but we definitely deserved the draw as well. So again, I suppose we finished 2021 on a high, we finished March on a high, we finished June on a high, and I'm kind of feeling then things. Okay, we started certainly September with that first half performance in Glasgow. That was very impressive. We were a goal up, but then unfortunately to throw it away was a bit disappointing. And it's been a bit of a curate's egg since then. Okay, it was good to beat Armenia and we needed to avoid relegation. At 2-2, we were looking at the disastrous scenario of another Armenia goal would have seen us relegated to League C. But, and I mean, it was still good to get the winner as well and actually win the match. But November, I see, I don't know how much you can learn from those friendlies. You don't want to get too carried away about wins or defeats. And I know our next game now is going to be a friendly against Latvia, but it really is about the competitive games. And yeah, for me, 2022, the highlight from the men's side was definitely beating Scotland. And for me, the low light was that defeat in Yerevan at the start of June.
And if you were to pick, like for me, I'm torn between Obafemi's goal and Nathan Collins' goal. You know, if you were kind of picking a real highlight of I know the result was a highlight, but you know, those two have to be up for goal of the year. But then you'd probably have to put Alan Brown's goal against Norway in there, I would have to say as well.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, even Troy Parrott's goal was well worked as well against Scotland.
Yeah. And Lithuania.
And Lithuania, actually. That was a cracker to win it from outside the area. You put me on the spot for this one because maybe I'll actually go with Nathan Collins because it came so out of the blue and for a centre half to do it and to make a run like that and what a finish. I mean, any striker would have been proud of that finish. So, but Obafemi's, as you said, was one of the best goals ever seen in the Aviva. So, if you put me to the pin of my collar, I'll go with Nathan Collins.
Well, that's fair enough. I'll go with Obafemi's screamer into the 114 section, and it set everyone alight. It was brilliant, you know, just the fact that we actually saw one of our players just picking the ball up on the half turn and going, you know what, I'm just going to smash it. And he knew as soon as that ball left his foot that was going to be, you know, an absolute worldie of a strike. Now, none of us in the stadium were expecting that because we're not used to seeing our players shoot from that distance so often. And he obviously did get another nice one like that against Armenia, I think it was. He got a similar enough goal, but he hit it along the ground this time. Correct me if I'm wrong if it wasn't Armenia, but I think it was. Which game was it when he received it on the half turn and he buried it bottom corner? Very similar to the goal he scored against Scotland.
Yeah, I think it was Armenia at home. Yeah.
But the one against Scotland for me is the pick. But then again, it's actually nice for the first time in years to be able to look back and go, actually, we have a collection of about 5 top goals that you could argue any of them. You know, the Parrott goal against Lithuania, the Obafemi goal, the Collins goal, Brown's daisy cutter against Norway was a nice goal as well. And I think after that, you know, the rest of them are fairly scrappy, but they're still. Ogbenny's goal actually against Belgium as well.
Yeah,
the overhead kick. So you've got five pretty decent ones there. But I suppose if you look back probably to last year, and I'm pretty sure we did a highlight highs and lows of 2021, and if we were to look back on that, I wouldn't say it was as impressive. Despite us still simmering in a situation where do we stick with Stephen Kenny? I think a lot of people have actually lost faith in Stephen Kenny, more so this year than last year. I think the way in which the results kind of spiraled, you know, it was such a inconsistent, and he's always seems to be one game away from being sacked as well. So I think there's for Ireland to really kick on, we need to win 3-4 games on the trot, and then you can kind of go, right, well, we're actually starting to see things change for the better. Now, I know that'll be hard to do, obviously coming against France and the Netherlands and stuff like that, but a few positive draws maybe against them,
yeah, I think
help them.
it's going to be it's going to be really, really difficult against them. I think Stephen still has the support of the match-going fans. I don't think he's ever lost that. It's going to be really difficult next year. I mean, France, they lost a World Cup final on penalties. The Dutch got to the quarterfinals and lost to the eventual winners on penalties. It's not inconceivable that the two of them could have met in the final. And we've got to finish ahead of one of them. I think the key thing for me will be the performances. I think if we were to finish in the top two in the group, it would be an incredible achievement. But really what I'd like to see is that we would put in performances in the group. And I'd certainly expect us to finish ahead of the Greeks. And we'll obviously finish ahead of Gibraltar. But, I mean, we've got to be excited about France coming here in March. I suppose the good thing from the FAI perspective is you can see the season ticket sales. I think it's something like 22,000 at this stage. You've got some of the best players in the world coming here. Kylian Mbappe coming to Dublin. It's going to be some occasion, and obviously a full house. I know the tickets haven't even gone on sale yet, but it's absolutely guaranteed to be sold out. I think the performance is going to be crucial. I think any sort of a result would be fantastic, but it's going to be very, very difficult. I mean, it's a real test when you're up against that quality. Just hoping the French played the Dutch a few days earlier and, I don't know, maybe they take their eyes off our game a little bit or something like that. But it's a big ask, a big, big ask.
Yeah. I suppose actually because we're going to be talking about the women now, I think you, as well as that, in terms of goals of the year, you've got to put Amber Barrett's goal up there as well. And we're going to be talking about that now shortly. But I suppose we didn't even include that one in that. But that would be easily tied at number one with the two goals that we've spoken about there. But let's talk about the women and obviously the impressive year they've had qualifying for the World Cup. So we'll go back to the 16th of February. They played in the Pinatar Cup against Poland, beat Poland 2-1, lost to Russia 1-0. I think there was a good few changes made in that game just to give players a run. Beat Wales 1-0 then. So all those games were played. There was 3 games played there over 6 days. Then we had that impressive World Cup qualifier against Sweden, and we drew 1-1. Katie McCabe, I think, scored that in that game. A brilliant performance against a really good Sweden team. Then we played a friendly against the Philippines and beat them 1-0. We beat Georgia then 9-0 away from home. Obviously, they were kind of the whipping team of the group. Everyone was beating them. I think we'd beaten them 11-0 in Dublin the year before. Then you have 1-0 win over Finland, which was obviously massive, and then a 1-0 away win against Slovakia when the pressure was really on for that, which obviously then got us the playoff against Scotland, and then going away and beating Scotland with Amber Barrett's brilliant goal and the way we went out and the way we battled in that game to win was massive, and we were obviously both there for that game, and it was huge, and it was an amazing occasion. And then they ended the year on a real high by beating Morocco 4-0 in a friendly on the 14th of November. So I suppose let's reminisce a little bit there. So take me back to your favourite parts of that of the year for the women.
Well, where do you start, Paul? I mean, it was an absolutely... I mean, I was talking about the pressure for the men and up against top teams. I mean, Sweden are arguably the second best team in the world. And to go to Gothenburg and to draw 1-1 and fully deserve the draw. I mean, it was a fantastic performance. Have to mention Courtney Brosnan in goal, who was absolutely superb. Somebody at the start of the year whose place was under threat. And she's finished the year as, well, possibly one of the star players, and what a run of clean sheets she's on. But what a performance that was in Gothenburg, and what an inspiration that could be to the men's side to actually go there. And then if you look at our competitive results, in theory, the worst result we had all year was that draw in Gothenburg, because we won all the other competitive games. And what a run to go on. The win over Georgia was a bit facile, and the friendly against the Philippines before that. The games then coming into the autumn were absolutely crucial. Finland in Tala Stadium, a sold-out crowd, cracking atmosphere, and a brilliant win. Lily Agg to come off the bench and be the hero or the heroine. That was a crucial
like Shane
win.
Duffy, she was getting up for that header.
Well, absolutely. And then, as you said, the crucial win in Senik, which we'd already earned the playoff, but to earn the playoff bye and ensure that we only needed to play one playoff match. So that was a really tough, hard-fought game. And it was a battling 1-0 win. And I'm old enough to remember the likes of George Graham and 1-0 to the Arsenal. And it was certainly, for Vera's side, very much a case of 1-0 to the Irish, with a very, very solid defensive performance. I mentioned Courtney Brosnan already, but the likes of Louise Quinn as well at the back. And we were so solid defensively. And then you said it, we're a bit unlucky, actually, to have the away draw in the playoff final. But we went to Glasgow, went to Hampden Park, and Scotland were highly fancied. They had players from the likes of Real Madrid and Chelsea. And we went there and we won with that Amber Barrett goal.
But don't forget the penalty as well, because they had a penalty earlier on.
Yeah, the penalty saved by Courtney Brosnan. Yeah, I mean, what can I say about her? She's had an unbelievable year. And but Amber Barrett to get that late goal to send us to Australia, and what obviously the best year ever for women's football, and one of the highlights for Irish football. I mean, it's not often we've qualified for 3 men's World Cups. This will be a fourth World Cup at senior level. I know we've qualified for underage World Cups as well. But it was really special, a first Women's World Cup, a first major tournament for the Irish women. And look, what a year. What an unbelievable year for Vera's side. And I'm certainly looking forward to 2023. And what a draw we got in the World Cup as well. The opening match in Australia, not the opening match of the tournament, but the opening match for one of the hosts, and we're up against the hosts, Australia, in Sydney. And what an occasion that's going to be.
Yeah, well, I just think it's huge for, I think, women in general. I think they're going to get a lot more, women to games. There's going to be a lot more kids wanting to go and see the team now. They'll be able to watch them on the TV. And there's plenty of Irish people already living over in Australia and New Zealand that I'm sure will want to go and see and support the team. So I think it could be a really big moment for the country as a whole, in terms of maybe even now starting maybe get the government maybe more on board to start pumping more money into football facilities as a whole. And then we start seeing the benefits from everywhere. And that's generally how it does. If the national team starts doing well, then all of a sudden we start seeing a change of, things at the top where funding does start coming in and things do start to get better and we do start to improve and we do start to see, a difference on the pitch. Now, the women that we have there at the moment, they're trailblazers for women, ahead of time now. So everyone will be looking up to this group as the first group that obviously did it. There's huge players there like Katie McCabe, like Denise O'Sullivan, like Louise Quinn, Courtney Brosnan. Other players are starting to come through like Jamie Finn and stuff like. She was brilliant in the playoff final as well, probably playing a position she's not really that known for. And she's done it really well, stuck to her task. You've players there like Megan Campbell, Niamh Fahey and all that, who as well, don't forget, were going through that period of couldn't even get their own tracksuits and stuff like that. Now they've qualified for the World Cup, and they should be immensely proud, and I know they are. And same with Vera. And it's a major breakthrough year. So this is definitely the highlight of 2023. You can say whatever you want about the men's team winning a game, and say that's that. The women's team have qualified for the World Cup, and there's nothing to be sniffed at there. It's an absolutely huge occasion. It was fantastic to be there and witness it live and see them all celebrate and see them all enjoying themselves. Maybe the celebrations were a little bit ruined by all the Sky Sports coverage and stuff like that of the Celtic Symphony song and all that type of stuff. But for me, it doesn't take away from anything from the achievement of what happened. In my opinion, they're entitled to go and sing whatever they want and enjoy themselves after games. Argentina were able to do it when they won the World Cup, and no one came questioning them or fining them. But anyway, I just think it's a great occasion now. It's something to look forward to next year. A lot of fans now, I'm sure we'll have friendlies and other things coming into the new year as well. That new fans can kind of get on board. Maybe new girls who are starting out playing football and they want to go and see I think we're kind of blessed in a way that we have a superstar like Katie McCabe there, who's such a good ambassador as well. I remember doing the press conference ahead of the Scotland game, and the way she just handles the media and everything like that, she's just brilliant. She's just seems like she's got such a good head on her shoulders. She has about 70 siblings by the looks of things as well, and even their siblings get interviewed and stuff like that. But it's great.
She's a sister coming through that might. It's already playing underage for us as well, so we could have.
Well, she got interviewed,
yeah, we could have two McCabe's in the Irish team before.
Well, that'd be great, But it's just great to see now. As I said, we have a superstar there. So anytime Arsenal are playing on the TV, I'll sit down and watch it because I know she'll be playing, and majority of the time I see her playing, she performs, and she's brilliant. And again, it's you go back to players who kind of make you really want to watch football, and you go back to like your Damien Duffs, your Robbie Keanes. For me, more so, you'll have better players, I'm sure, from the Italian 90s and Euro 88s and stuff like that. You got to see the likes of Liam Brady playing and stuff like that, which I'm very jealous of. But like Damien Duff, for me, excellent player. Robbie Keane, Shay Given, and these types of players who were players, and they were world class players playing for Ireland at the time. And we probably haven't seen a world class player for a number of years, but we have a world class player playing for our women's team. And I would argue that Denise O'Sullivan is right up there as well.
Yeah, Denise is a class player, and you mentioned Senik. She got that crucial goal and has been a great stalwart for the side. Look, there's a lot of stars, and it's. That women's team have had fantastic support. Tallaght Stadium has been a bit of a fortress, but I really hope there will be a friendly in the Aviva at some point next year before heading off to Australia, and just to give the fans a chance to say thank you and everything. Appreciate Tallah's the home, and maybe get back to Tallaght for the qualifiers for the next Euros. But I'd love to see a big game in the Aviva sometime next April, May, whenever. The February window is probably going to come too soon. But to give the fans a chance to give those players a great send-off when they go to Australia. And another thing I'd just like to mention is, because I've been following the tickets and trying to buy tickets for the World Cup, the hottest ticket for the World Cup next year, bar none, is being that Australia game. The final, there's been a couple of sales and you can log in, and the first ticket gone. You can't get the Australia game. You can buy any other ticket. You can buy the final. But that game in Sydney, I think they're already talking about moving it to a bigger stadium. It's in a 40,000 capacity stadium, and potentially it'll go to Stadium Australia. I did see some reports in so far only in the Australian press that it might be moved, and even if they do, it's still going to be sold out. And that's just a testament to how far women's football has come. Because I can remember, and it's not that long ago, when going to see the women's team in the likes of the Carlisle grounds in front of a few hundred people, and I'm going back. That's possibly in the last 10 years or so. And certainly, if it's, I'm struggling with maybe a little bit with the year, but certainly would have been playing in the likes of Richmond Park, the Carlisle grounds, gone around the country as well, and really playing in front of fairly small crowds. And what a way we've come now to be playing in a World Cup. So it's absolutely fantastic for women's football. And as you said, the likes of Katie McCabe, Denise O'Sullivan, Louise Quinn, Megan Connolly, Courtney Brosnan, etc. They're all Nia Fahy, Diane Caldwell, etc. They're all heroes. They're going to inspire not just a lot of young girls, but also young boys to play football and to dream of going to a World Cup as well. Yeah,
I agree. And that's, as well, like, I know we're going to talk about the under-21s now, like they came so close, and it would have been a real shame for us to come so close to the World Cup. And obviously there was the Euros there where we came so close to that, and then ultimately just kind of fell at the last hurdle, and you could see how much it kind of broke the team. But I think ultimately they showed the resilience then to be able to go over to Hampden, get the win, and back in Scotland's own backyard, as well. We were up against it from the start because obviously they had that penalty early doors, and if Courtney doesn't save that, we could have been in real big trouble there. And we were thinking, because the game plan would have went out the window, because we were quite defensive. We were sat in, and then when we had our chance to attack and get the goal, we did. Luckily, Amber was prolific when she came on. So because I don't think Heather Payne scores that chance. I think Heather Payne will give you a lot more in terms of running all day long, but Amber's a better finisher in my opinion. But yeah, what a goal and what a way to qualify. It was brilliant, and I kind of felt once we got the goal that we actually, although the Scottish kind of put a lot on us, I never felt like we were really going to concede after we scored, and I felt like we were really starting to kind of push them. But
yeah, I mean, you did mention Amber Barrett. Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, sorry, you mentioned Heather Payne, who was a regular starter and gives so much to the team. She runs so hard, she works so hard, and she has scored some crucial goals as well. The reality is, if Leanne Kiernan hadn't been injured, Amber Barrett, who was in many ways the forgotten woman of that squad, she may not even have got her chance off the bench. But as you said, it was a phenomenal finish, and she didn't get to do too much in the campaign, but when she got her chance, boy, did she take it, and what a finish.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I suppose we'll move on now to the 21s. I have their fixtures there. So they started off the year in March with a 2-0 win over Sweden away from home, a 3-0 win at home to Bosnia, a 3-1 win at home against Montenegro, a 4-1 loss to Italy in June 14th, and then it was the Israel penalty shootout, which unfortunately didn't go our way. I know you were at that game, and we lost on penalty shootouts. Evan Ferguson did get a goal at home in Tallaght Stadium to bring it back to 1-1, and we were probably unlucky in that game. Think of Aaron Connolly, a few chances fell his way, and maybe if he buries them, we might be talking about Ireland being in the competition. But ultimately it wasn't to be, after a lot of promise, and I think a lot of people were thinking that we could do it. We were a talented bunch there coming through, but ultimately it wasn't to be. You were there, so yeah, talk to me about the 21s.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a case of so near yet so far. As you touched on, we actually came so close in the last campaign as well. And it was that game against Iceland in Tallaght when we unfortunately lost. I think had we won, we would have qualified for a first ever finals. We did so well in this case to get to the playoffs. And look, Israel, another thing you touched on was the investment. And Israel have spent a lot of money. The government has pumped a lot of money into their football. and they've got a lot of good young players coming through, etc. They actually brought some players back from the senior squad to play in the second leg. And look, when it goes to penalties, it's a total lottery. And effectively, I know there's practice of penalties and everything as well, but effectively it comes down to more or less a flip of a coin. And unfortunately, it went the wrong way for us. It would have been so fantastic had Jim Crawford led us to a first ever major finals at under 21 level. Unfortunately, it's not to be. And I think it would have been great for the players' development. I'm sure there's quite a few of the squad still eligible for the next campaign. I know there hasn't been a draw or anything yet, but I think that's going to happen early enough in the new year. And look, I'm sure we're going to give it a right good go again. And look, in Tel Aviv, it was a great performance. They played really well, defended excellently to get the game to penalties. And, well, just what can you say? It just wasn't to be. And it was gut-wrenching to actually lose it, to come so close and to miss out. But hopefully it'll stand to the players. And, well, I don't think we're that far away from reaching a first ever under-21 finals.
Yeah, I think it isn't far away, and we're starting to produce more and more good young players coming through. I think that's showing in the League of Ireland, and that's also shown by the players that are being bought out from the League of Ireland as well to be brought over. There's a lot more now than there used to be being brought over, and there's players doing well at clubs as well. Like you look at Joe Hodge and these types of players who are coming through now and actually playing and starting Premier League games now, which is great to see. Evan Ferguson as well, another player who's starting to get a bit of an opportunity with Brighton. So yeah, it's and obviously Bazunu and Collins and stuff like that. So it's been a while since we've had kind of our young players kind of coming in and doing well. And I'd say Bazunu's probably still eligible for the 21s as well. You look at Aaron Connolly, he obviously had broken in and came back down to play for the 21s as well, to try and get his career back on track. But I think it's an eye opener for the 21s. It's like, look, you can get this far, but now next time we need to be more clinical. And I think we could have won that game in Tala, and that would have wrapped up the tie. I think we played quite well in Tel Aviv, but we just couldn't score. And unfortunately, if you don't score goals, as they say, you don't win games. And that's ultimately what happened. But we had a lot of chances. I think Aaron Connolly had the pick of the chances, if I'm not mistaken, in Tala, and had a really good game. Everybody seemed to be back talking about him, and everyone thought that he was going to turn things around and stuff like that. It just hasn't been the case for him. I don't know what's going on there with him. That he's probably looking like he's going to leave Venezia now. So yeah, that's disappointing for him. And then obviously the loss. Then I think he got injured in that game in Tel Aviv as well then, so he's kind of not been seen. But yeah, it's overall, if you're kind of looking at the year for Irish football, you'd have to say it was a good year, just purely down to the fact that the women have qualified for a World Cup. But if you take that out of the equation, it's not been the best of years in terms of on the pitch from a men's perspective, just purely because the results are just so scattered. Like one result can be good, and the next result can be kind of, just very deceiving. And then beating Malta 1-0, not very convincingly. Beating Lithuania, not very convincingly. Even though we should be celebrating them as wins, they haven't been that convincing. And I think that's what people are a little bit alarmed about.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think it has been a very successful year, but I think mainly down to the women. I was, given the under-21s missed out on penalties, I don't think you can really be too critical. I think it's been an excellent year for Jim Crawford's side. And they did go into that Italy game with a chance to, if I remember correctly, I suppose the win was never on, but had they won the game, I think they would have qualified directly. for the finals. Now, appreciate going to Italy, beating Italy is even though we did that in the last 10 years as well at under 21 level. But
it's just that their pool of players is
it's just a different level. Yeah, I know that was too big an ask, but it was some achievement to get the playoff, to end up in a penalty shootout in the playoff, and as I said, it was a bit of a lottery. On the men's side, very much a mixed bag, and we'll see what next year brings. Ultimately, the Nations League was a disappointment, finishing third in our group. And unfortunately, then we were, we put ourselves in a third seed for the draw and then needed a bit of luck. And certainly we got the worst possible luck, because I don't think we could have got a more difficult top seed and a more difficult second seed. So it makes qualification or direct qualification very difficult next year for the Euros.
Yeah, I think as well as that, we've had luck in the past with draws and stuff like that. Do you remember who was the team in one of our groups? I think it was Stephen Kenny was our manager, and I think Northern Ireland got the group that we were meant to get in the end. It was Germany and Netherlands and a few others, and we got out of jail with that one, but we didn't do anything with it. So unfortunately, if you don't capitalise on when your luck is in, then don't be crying when it doesn't go your way. You have to just take it as it is, But I think overall,
we still ended up with a tough one. That was Mick McCarthy's draw, actually. But we ended up still with a tough enough one with the Danes and the Swiss. So, it was good to avoid the Germans and the Dutch, but it wasn't as if we ended up in a very easy group, as it turned out. Yeah,
exactly. So, but I think, look, I think for me, the highlight of the year is that Scotland game and that goal by Amber Barrett. And you could just keep watching it on loop over and over. But I really do love that Obafemi goal, just because it's the pure confidence and the arrogance of the goal of, you know what, shackles are off here, I'm going to have a go. Smashed it. And I think we were sitting together watching the game for that one. And we were just like, what's just happened here? Because we were just so not used to it. And then, because I know Troy got that one against Lithuania and stuff like that, and we were peppering the goal in that game. But this one, because of the opposition that it was in Scotland, it had that kind of local derby feel to it, and you were like, he hasn't tried that, has he? And then next minute, boom, and before anyone could blink, it was in the net, and everyone was blown away by this guy because of the assist for the Troy Parrott goal as well, which you'd have to say that again would be up there with the goals as well. I think you thought that goal was actually better on the day. I think you said that as well.
Yeah, it was a close one here. So.
Yeah, so there's lots of moments that have been good, but I think next year we really have to capitalise on getting better results. And I'm not talking about your Greece. I am talking about your Greece. I'm not talking about your Holland or your France. It has to be like these Greece and Gibraltar, and maybe a lucky win like Germany with Shane Long. I personally can't see it happening, but we did also play quite well against teams like Portugal and stuff like that last year, and show that we could compete with them. Done okay against Serbia as well, who are two really good teams in my opinion as well. So if we could play like that against those types of teams, then who knows? But we just need to start getting results on the board, because ultimately it just doesn't look good for the manager. Because as you say, I think match day gone fans are happy with him. But at the same time, there's been a lot more people who work Kenny in who have turned Kenny out in the process, definitely this year. And I've noticed that in the comments on our videos, on our posts, on social media and stuff like that. People who are really, really, Kenny in, they're like, I'm starting to really lose faith in him. So for his sake, he needs to start picking up results, because there's people like Lee Carsley being linked and stuff like that. And ultimately, you don't want that type of talk. You want to know that your manager is there. You want to know that there's no distractions, and you want to know that you're going to kick on from there. But look, someone whose job definitely couldn't be safer right now is Vera Pauw, and she's going to lead that team to the World Cup, which is fantastic. And we don't even know what's going to happen with Jim Crawford. Will he sign a new contract, or what's going to go on there as well? So we're going to have to wait on that one as well. So there's a little bit of things that need to be sorted out in the new year. We have that game against Latvia, which will kick off our 2023 year. And in the process, there's going to be a lot of football off the basis of the World Cup.
Yeah, and well, here's to next year, and who knows, maybe we can qualify directly for the Euros in Germany. Certainly would give a fantastic boost to men's football. And we can see the boost it's got to women's football by qualifying for the World Cup. So hopefully 2023 you'll see us qualify for the Euros.
Oh, with a bit of luck. Yeah, I suppose we'll leave it there. Let us know your highest point of the year, your lowest point of the year in the comments. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe as well, and we'll have this out on podcast as well. So if you're listening, you may be listening on audio. As it is, don't forget to follow